Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 458. My name is Emily Rainbow Davis. Thank you for being here. Today's blog is about audio drama. Woo! Not a lot of people listen to audio drama, but I make audio drama, so I have some thoughts about it. And this it was inspired by a podcast I listened to. And the only reason I finally listened to it is that I had downloaded it at some point on my phone. Like I have a handful that I have downloaded for like train travel and the times where I don't have access to, a phone signal or Wi-Fi. So I was on a train and I was like, all right, I'll finally listen to it. And so I did. And it is called The Cost of Audio Drama. Finally, I got around to listening to the Writers Guild East's podcast episode on audio drama. It's from 2019, but I thought I should give it a listen. It is my field, after all. This episode aimed to give writers the lowdown on how to get into audio drama and how to self-produce. I imagine it might be helpful if you've never done this before. But one thing that popped out at me was their take on budget. They said it would generally cost $100,000 to produce a decent audio drama. And probably if you do things through all the fancy businessy channels, that may be accurate. But I found it a kind of astonishing figure. I have never spent more than $10,000 on a season of an audio drama. It is entirely possible to make a good show for less than $100,000. I just feel like it is important for aspiring drama writers to know that. Is it easy? Of course not. But it is entirely possible. I just think if I were looking down the barrel of raising $100,000, I might become so discouraged I'd curl up and shiver. And I certainly would never make that audio drama I'd been dreaming of. Yes, more money helps one do more things. I know that is true. You can get more resources with more resources. But I think this is how we end up with kind of overly processed art. There are people who have a little spark of an idea that thrills them, but then they get discouraged when they hear they need $100,000, so they don't make it. And the people who have $100,000 to throw around can just go right into production with whatever nonsense they have on hand. I think we need models for scrappy shoestring operations, or we can start to believe that art is only for the rich. I think we need examples of people doing it for less. Truth is, it's not just audio drama that I have never spent more than $10,000 on. That's true for theater as well, and believe it or not, that is harder to do. At least with audio drama, I don't have to raise money for visual design, like sets and costumes. Sometimes I don't even need to rent a performance space. It is expensive to produce things. It really is. But not $100,000 expensive. Could I figure out how to spend $100,000 on a podcast if someone offered it to me? I imagine I could. But it would take some effort. Making things on a shoestring is entirely possible. So is living on a shoestring. Does anyone particularly want to do that? No. But I have done it my entire working life. I should not be able to live on the money I make. It is nowhere near a living wage, like so far from it. But still, somehow, I manage. Probably mostly due to the generous people in my life, but I feel like it's important to acknowledge that it is possible. One can make an audio drama for under $100,000 and live on impossible wages. I just wouldn't want someone to not make something they wanted to make because of how daunting those high numbers can be. Being able to make things and live with very little is a useful skill and worth exploring to see if maybe you've got it. And I think the first step is seeing that other people have done it. I've done it. And it's clear a lot of other people have as well. One of the SAG contracts is called a micropod, and it provides contracts for podcasts with budgets of $10,000 or less. It's the one we're using for our next season. So I am clearly not the only one making stuff for $10,000. Is $10,000 still a lot of money? Yes, it is. But try and produce a wedding for that. Apparently, the average wedding budget is $33,000. So, it's all relative. Anyway, to all of my struggling fellow artists out there, you don't have to let money stop you in your tracks. It is possible to do it for less and still pay people. In fact, that's mostly what we spend money on. Just, not $100,000. If we had it, though, that's where it would go. So, yeah, that podcast was so funny to me because I was like, yeah, I'm nodding along. Yes, that sounds right. That sounds good, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, yeah, expect to pay $100,000. Okay. And I guess I've been at this a long enough time that I was just like, how do you even spend $100,000? I mean, I know how you do it, but it's really astonishing. So I'm also currently in the throes of it because we're working on season 3 of The Dragoning. So, if anyone wanted to throw us $100,000, I would be very happy to meet the challenge of trying to figure out how to spend it. That would be a fun kind of challenge, not the kind of challenge I'm used to. So it would be an incredible learning opportunity. Just, if anyone's out there throwing away $100,000 audio drama grants to tiny theater companies based in New York City. Woo! Okay, so what song do I have for you? Well, having made a show about money years ago, I do have many, many, many playlists full of songs about money, but I didn't feel like this blog is really about money so much as it is about cost. And I tried to find songs that were about cost of living, cost of, making things, expenses, those kinds of topics. And people, they do write songs about money, that is for sure, but costs and expenses, not so much. But I did suddenly think of a song that I have loved since I heard it in the 90s. It is a Woody Guthrie song, and I discovered it through Nancy Griffith's cover. Nancy Griffith did this fantastic album of covers in the 90s, and this song is one of them. And it's, Woody Guthrie. It's so great. And it's called Do Re Mi. It is very funny because when you look it up, you get a lot of Sound of Music, but that's not what I meant. So I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please tell someone about it. Like, review, subscribe, do anything in your podcast app that you could do in any podcast app, or do it in all the podcast apps. If you would like to support this podcast with money, that'd be amazing. Patreon.com/Emily R. Davis is the hotspot. There's also Ko-fi, there's PayPal. You can do a paid subscription on Substack, or if you have another way you like to support artists, let me know about it and I will join. And mostly, I thank you for your ears on this thing. I do not spend even $10,000 on this project. This I do I don't know that there is any outlay of cash at all. Aside from... No, like occasionally, like I'll have to buy like recording equipment. I had to get some new headphones when mine started to short out, but for the most part, like the cost is all just me, labor, time. But that doesn't mean it's not worth some do-re-mi, as it were. But, so not everything I make costs $10,000, although a lot of things do. But that's part of the reason that I can make this every week, right, is because it doesn't cost any money. I would not do it if I had to raise money for it. That is one of the reasons I don't make as much theater as I would like to, is because raising money for it is a ginormous pain. Anyway... Whee! Good times. So one of the reasons that I felt like this song was the right one for this particular blog post is that it's a song about, sort of discouraging people to move to California because they don't have enough money. So like, don't come here. Don't come to California if you don't have the money. It stinks if you don't have the money. And I think that is probably true, even still today. I mean, Woody Guthrie wrote this, I think, Depression era, I'm guessing. So I think it was especially true then. So it is a good warning. But also, if you want to move to California, then you'll find a way, I think, is how I feel about it. I mean, Lord knows I do not want to live in California. I did live there for 2 years, and it's not for me. But if that's the dream, you got to dream it and do it, even if you don't have the do-re-mi. Lots of folks back east, they say, is leaving home every day, beating the hot old dusty way to the California line. Across the desert sands they roll, getting out of that old dust bowl. They think they're going to a sugar bowl, but here's what they find. Now the police at the port of entry say, you're number 14,000 for today. Oh, if you ain't got that do-re-mi, boys, if you ain't got that do-re-mi, why you better go back to beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or see. But believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got that do-re-mi. You wanna buy you a home or a farm that can't deal nobody harm, or take your vacation by the mountains or the sea. Don't swap your old cow for a car, you better stay right where you are. Better take this little tip from me, 'cause I look through the want ads every day, and the headlines in the papers always say, if you ain't got that do-re-mi, boys, if you ain't got that do-re-mi, why you better go back to beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, it's a paradise to live in or see. Believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got that do-re-mi. Believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got that do-re-mi.